And at 7:15. First item on the agenda, opening 1.1, prayer and pledge. Mr. Hall, would you say the prayer for us, please?
Bow with me, everyone. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings of life. We thank you for Lord Jesus Christ, for our Lord and Savior. Lord, tonight we just ask you to be with this board to guide and direct them in their decisions tonight in the benefit of our community. These things I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would everybody please turn on their mics? Thank you. Number 2, approval of the agenda.
Approved. Second.
For the first and a second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Number 3, citizens' comments.
There are no citizens' comments tonight, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Number 4, approval of the minutes, 4.1, April 12th, 2016 workshop.
Move approved. Second.
On first and second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? 4.2, April 12th, 2016 regular meeting.
Move approved. Second.
On first and second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Number 5, recommendations, there are none. Number 6, bonds. Mr. Hall, would you like to review the bonds for us?
Larry, I'm going to let you do 6.1, and I'll do 6.2.
The 6.1, the bond expires May 19th. We'll just need a motion from the Planning Commission to call that bond if it's not renewed by May 19th.
Make a motion to call the bond if it's not renewed by May 19th.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 6.2.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Deer Valley Downs has said they will have their bond renewed tomorrow, but we still need to get permission to call the bond just in case.
Move to call a bond on May 21st, if not continue. Second.
We have a first and a second, all in favor?
Madam Chairman, may I say something before we do? If we had to call it May 21st, it's on the weekend. So if you approve this, which I expect you would, we would, if we have to make a call on a weekend or a holiday, we always make the call effective on the day that it actually expires, but we have to make it a day or so early because they're not going to be open on that weekend.
I'll restate the motion, if it's okay, to call the bond on the next business day after May the 21st, 2016.
Well, we can't really do that because technically it would have expired. We'll have to call it.
You're going to call it before?
Yeah, we'll call them, we'd have to call it on by Friday, but we always make it effective. I'm just putting that for your information. We would make it effective on the 21st. In other words, the call would be for the 21st, so if they renewed it at the last minute, we just recall the bond.
You're the lawyer. That sounds
Yeah,
good.
well, your motion's appropriate for
Okay.
calling it before May 21st. I just
I
wanted
just
to.
didn't want to take away any opportunities they may have.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, if, we've done this before, if it's something that involves a deadline in the courts or something, it automatically, by the rules of civil procedure, extends it to the end of the next business day. But those rules don't apply
Okay.
to bonds. So what we would do is we would make it effective the 21st, because obviously we'd have to deliver it earlier. And if they renewed it at the last minute, anyone who did that at the last minute, then we'd just recall the recall. I mean, we'd recall the call. It was just an informational thing. Your motion's okay.
Okay, we have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
First and a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? 6.3,
Yes, Madam Chairperson, Walmart has asked for their performance bond to be released, which is their maintenance of, Walmart is asking for the bond to be released, which is the storm drainage, sidewalks, and roads to cover. And they are in compliance, so I would recommend releasing that bond.
Move to release both bonds.
Second.
The first and the second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6.4,
Heartland Reserve is asking for the performance bond to cover the road, sidewalk, storm drainage. Planning Commission set the bond on February 12, 2008. The Planning Commission reduced the bond there June 14th, 2011, to $250,000. Bond expires June the 30th, 2016. Developer requesting a reduction of the bond amounts on sections 1, 2, and 3 of Heartland Reserve Development. They think that it would take approximately $106,715 to complete these sections. Will, do you pretty well agree with that?
I made a site visit and observation assessment today about 4 o'clock, and just for clarity purposes, understand that while I appreciate the assistance from the applicant on the dollar amount, we do independently set both the initial bond amount and any reduction amount. So in looking at the work, the bulk of the work that is remaining is the placement of the top coat or surface coat of asphalt. There's some grading and drainage work that would be associated with kind of finished grading. And I have calculated around $110,000. In keeping with your subregs of setting the initial amount of 125% of my estimated cost, I would suggest to you that you keep that same practice in your reduction amounts, which is standard in past practices. So 110,000 times 125% is $137,500 would be my recommended amount of the bond.
And Larry, do we need to decline this and ask him to bring it back for that figure?
Should have said it.
No, you can reduce it to that tonight, and then he'd have to renew it for the amount you said tonight prior to the expiration date,
June 30th.
June 30th, yeah. It just have to be renewed, and it would be on the next agenda for the next planning commission to renew it for $137,500 prior to the expiration date. Because you'll have another meeting between now and then.
Make a motion to reduce the bond to $137,500.
Second.
we have a first and a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Number 7, old business. 7.1, discuss and or take action on infrastructure construction plans for Cumberland Estates, formerly Greenland Estates, Phase 1, portion of map 47, parcel 66.04, 52.56 acres, zoned R20, plan unit development, Kenneth B. Green, owner. Mr. Beata, would you like to read the engineer's comments, please?
Sure. There are 3 comments from the staff review pertaining to item 7.1. Number 1, per the zoning ordinance, within 60 days of the BOC adopting a PUD rezoning, owner shall record with the Register of Deeds a boundary plat or suitably comparable document identifying that the affected properties are subject to the provisions of a PUD overlay district. Any off-site improvements and special conditions to which the development is subject shall be recorded with or on such plat. This document should be submitted to city staff for review and comment prior to being recorded. Number 2, Please provide a copy of the deed that conveys the property to the proposed developer. Per the zoning ordinance, no action is to take place on any final development documents, including construction plans, until the land has been conveyed to the developer. It should be noted that staff understands there have been some boundary discrepancies that the developer has sought legal clarity on, and as a result, conveyance of the property has been delayed. Number 3, a standard note for requiring fencing around stormwater ponds 1 and 2 is shown on the plans. The fencing note is omitted for stormwater pond 3. For clarity purposes, pond 3 is also required to be fenced. If the PC desires to set a performance bond amount at this time, the engineer recommends the bond amount to be set at $1,051,940, which is 125% of the engineer's cost estimate of $841,552, as outlined in this subdivision regulations. That's all.
Thank you.
Make a motion to approve with the engineers' the 3 engineers' comments.
Second.
Have a first and a second. Any discussion?
I just had one question about, at last month's meeting, we referenced the traffic study on the second entrance not being addressed because it's not on this active phase. Is there any way to perform that study now? Because if we build phase 1, it's gonna be a lot harder to make an adjustment if required on that second entrance. You remember referencing that? Will was saying
I
that?
do. Yeah, the farthest, excuse me, I'm not a literary expert, but the furthest development of this phase 1 that goes to the east is lot 80. Lot 50. The stormwater pond that was of central attention in previous discussions, along with lot 196, 195 and 196 is not a part of this phase. I would anticipate that if there are adjustments that need to be made to that ingress and egress from Cumberland Drive, that there would be plenty of room to shift that proposed street connection to the west, even as far, if need be, to the eastern boundary of lot 50. So that would still be, if that's what the traffic study reports in the next phase, that would still be feasible even if this phase continued as designed. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
But I think it's important to note that that traffic study, and also let me clarify, in some previous discussions, there may have been some confusion. There was a full traffic study done for the full build-out. Volumes for all the lots, not just this phase 1. And it assessed turn lane requirements or necessities, widening of the road, stacking lanes, shoulders, not only of Cumberland Drive right here, but access points both east and west. What it did not include was sight distance issues pertaining to that second entrance. So from a volume standpoint, that initial traffic study that has been done, was done previously, included the full build-out of the development. We certainly, when you're dealing with volume concerns, you want that study to take place before any approvals of any phase, and that's what has taken place. It just did not include a site triangle assessment of that specific entrance. So it may need to be shifted, but it won't affect the volume issues or lack thereof from the traffic study with regards to turn lanes or signalization or anything like that.
But it will be required at that point that phase comes with that
Yes,
entrance.
when Phase 2 comes in that involves that connection to Cumberland Drive, we will be requesting that specifically site triangle and site distance, conventional industry standards for stopping site distance, be employed and be submitted with those construction plans for review.
Mr. Hall, you have something from that?
I'm just listening to make sure everything is in there, and I think Lisa's got a couple things that she's going to ask to be added to the motion as far as the trees that they're going to plant along Cumberland every 40 feet, and and you can go over that list if you want to, Lisa. Okay. I think they've done address most of it.
And I would like to show for the record that we have representation for this subdivision present.
Yes, we do.
There will be planting a redbud or something similar every 40 feet along Cumberland Drive. A 4-foot black chain link fence will be installed around detention pond with landscape screening. The detention pond will be cut weekly so as to not be an eyesore. The houses that front Cumberland Drive will be all brick and will have upscale landscaping.
Wayne, have we heard anything else on the traffic study or the light possibly at Cumberland?
What I'm looking into, we have, in my conversation with TDOT, trying to see if we could get a grant on a red light at Cumberland. There is a one-time, every 5-year funding that we get from the federal government called the FAST Act. And one of those things in there that it addresses is safety features, which that would be, and it has to be on a state highway, not on an interior road, which Cumberland 100 absolutely fits that scenario. And of course, we've got to have it surveyed and engineered. But I'm going to recommend to the Board of Commissioners, once I find out how much that funding will be, that they spend that on a red light at Cumberland and 100, and we should hear on that sometime in the middle of the summer.
Thank you.
Do we need to add the items I read to the motion?
If you want to include it as part of the motion, also, are you going to deal with the setting of the bond, or you want to come back later and do that? That's up to the board. I don't think it's in the original motion, but, you can set the bond later. That's up to you. But if you're going to, it needs to be made part of your motion.
Okay.
Can we do that under 8.4? Well, it'd be 8.6.
8.6.
Sorry.
I'm confused there. So what you're saying is to do the bond part at 8.6?
I'm just saying, Cameron,
But I
since it's
don't
new
think we
business,
can add to the agenda once we've,
Could add it to the motion.
I can add it.
Just amend the motion.
I'll just amend my motion.
yeah, we can just amend the motion, but we
Yeah.
just can't add another item.
Not without a hearing,
Not
and if
without
you're
a-
going to do that, you just need to withdraw your motion and make a new one.
Okay, yeah, just withdraw the motion and make a new motion.
I will make a new motion that we approve with the engineer's comments and the bond amount of $1,051,940.
Don't leave out the chairman's comments.
Also, the chairman's comments, if you'd like to read those.
And that they will add a redbud or similar tree every 40 foot along Cumberland Drive. They're going to add a 4-foot chain link fence to be installed around all detention ponds with landscape screening. And the detention ponds will be cut weekly. And all houses that front on Cumberland Drive will be all brick with upscale landscaping.
And I believe it says the chain link fence is black.
He said that.
Yeah, I thought it did.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Seven point two, discuss and or take action on infrastructure construction plans for Kyles Creek, Phase 2, Section 2, map 47, parcel 32.00, 14.07 acres, zone R20, Kelly Shiver, owner.
I'll recuse myself from voting on this.
Mr. Mangrum is recusing himself. Mr. Beata, would you like to read the engineer's comments?
Yes, there are two comments pertaining to item 7.2. Number one, it should be noted that there is a significant amount of fill proposed for Kyles Creek Drive between stations 100 and 450. This material must consist of select backfill as described in the road specifications of the subregs, be placed in appropriate lifts and compacted appropriately. Due to the proposed fill depth, the developer is required to provide verification that the fill material was placed and compacted in a manner that is suitable for the proposed road construction from a licensed geotechnical engineer. This verification will be required prior to the placement of any asphalt material on the roadway. Number two, there are some minor revisions to the drainage pattern in the vicinity of lots 215 and 216, as well as lots 222, 223. These revisions primarily include the addition of 2 inlet head walls at low spots. The revisions can be made prior to the pre-construction meeting and will not have any significant effect on the other aspects of the proposed construction plans. If the PC desires to set a performance bond amount at this time, the engineer recommends the bond amount to be set at $418,412.50, which is 125% of the engineer's cost estimate of $334,730, as outlined in the subdivision regulations. And that's all. Make a motion for approval.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion?
Want to amend it to include the engineer comments in the bond or withdraw and resubmit?
I'll just amend my motion. I make a motion for approval based on the, with the inclusion of the comments from the city staff. And I'll go ahead and add to that to set the performance bond at the $418,412.50 as suggested by our city engineer, Mr. Will Owen.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And I would like to show for the record, we have representation for this development as well. Thank you. 7.3, discuss and or take action on design review components of revised final site plan for Hardee's located at 7003 City Center Way, map 42, parcel 168.09, zone TCOD/MSMU, Town Center Overlay District, Main Street Mixed Use, Bowie Commons LLC owner. Mr. Beata, would you like to read the engineer's comments, please?
Sure. Okay, item 7.3. Please note that there were minor revisions to the site plan that pertain to slight modifications to the building footprint. These revisions were deemed minor in nature and meeting the criteria outlined in section 16-103.6 that allows for administrative approval of the revisions. In addition to the minor revisions mentioned above, the applicant is also proposing to revise some of the site plan components pertaining to the design review manual. The design review manual components were not deemed minor and therefore are being presented to the PC for review as an amendment to the previously approved site plan. Specifically, the two revised items for consideration by the Planning Commission are as follows. Number one, the primary structure is now being proposed as an all-brick structure with stone accent walls on the left and right sides. The front wall is still deficient in the 70% brick requirement, but it will have a brick base below the front windows. The remainder of the front remains mostly unchanged from the previously approved site plan, except that exterior tile accents, black in color, have replaced a portion, approximately 40% of the ephes surface above the front windows. All other walls are being proposed as 100% brick with stone accents. Number two, the wall materials for the proposed dumpster and storage room structure has been revised from a faux stone veneer to 8-inch split-face CMU block. This proposed revision meets the requirements found in Section 2-106.3 of the Design Review Manual that commercial dumpster areas be enclosed by a fence of masonry construction.
Thank you. Can we put the Hardee's rendering up on the projector? Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion for approval and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I would just like to, for the record, show that we have representation for Hardee's.
Thank you.
Yes.
When you starting?
I had expected already, so very, very soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I get that question every day, so
Well, soon.
I think, for me, I think the new plan is just beautiful, and I'm excited, so. Next item on the agenda, number 8, new business. 8.1, discuss and or take action on annexation request for 7338 Overby Road, map 46, parcel 44.06, 2.17 acres. Owner Kelly Maggart. Mr. Beata, would you like to read the engineer's comments, please?
Sure. Item 8.1, staff comments. Number 1, there does not appear to be a recorded plat at the county register's office for the 2.17 acres that is being considered for annexation. As such, a minor final plat should be submitted to and approved by the Planning Commission and properly recorded at the county register's office prior to the Board of Commissioners' consideration of the second and final reading of the annexation resolution. Number 2, at the direction of the Board of Commissioners, a plan of services must be drafted by city staff, reviewed by the Planning Commission with recommendations being sent to the Board of Commissioners for consideration, and a public hearing on the plan of services held by the Board of Commissioners prior to the Board of Commissioners' consideration of the second and final reading of the annexation resolution.
Should this be deferred due to this, or?
Do we have representation here?
Yes, we do.
Okay. That's this board's call, but primarily because you can make the recommendation to either approve or disapprove to the Board of Commissioners, contingent upon the engineer's report items being completed, because we will not have a second reading until that plat's recorded, nor will we have, you generally, when these things come down, you have the second reading and the public hearing on the same night for the annexation as well as the plan of services. But if they tell me to prepare the annexation resolution, and if it comes up for the second reading and these documents haven't been recorded and there's not I mean, the plan of services would be done, but then you would continue the second reading until such time as it was recorded, because it takes 2 readings.
Okay,
But that's up to you.
thank you. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
What's your motion?
Motion for approval?
Oh, okay.
Second for discussion.
I assume that motion is subject to the engineer's
Yes.
comments.
Okay. All right, I have a first and a second.
I've got 2 quick
Discussion.
questions. Will, since this is a minor subdivision, just 2 parcels, well, 1 parcel with a portion of it being cut out, can we not do that in-house? Since there's no services there's no roads being built or anything?
Mr. Mangrum, I believe you are correct. And I overlooked that. But yes, I believe that can be a staff approved or administratively approved, since it's a 1-lot division of land. So that,
It's still have to go through the annexation.
Okay, but this is an annexation, not a subdivision approval.
Well,
correct.
And my next question was, since you're looking at, from what your comments say, can we subdivide county property with the city having any say-so in it?
No, we can't, other than we need to review, at least as a staff, that the division of land that's being proposed coincides with the legal description of the annexation boundary. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So while we don't necessarily have signatory authority, we would want to confirm that the 2.17 acres that's being subdivided off, the legal boundary is the same as the 2.17 acres that is described legally in the annexation ordinance.
With all that, would you want to defer it until that gets recorded?
No, I don't think it's necessary to defer it. I think it can all happen concurrently. And again, since we're only dealing with a minor 1-lot division, it's something that's not very complex at all, so. And I would be accepting of, there was some discussion at the staff review that there was a plat recorded, or there was one that is in the process of being recorded through the county. And if it is recorded and is in compliance with the description of the annexed area, that would be sufficient as well.
Look at this. I don't think that's recorded just yet.
You got a quick claim in right here.
That was just brought to me this morning.
Yes, it appears this is
Work in progress.
a minor final plat that is being submitted through the county process to divide this 2.17 off from the parent tract. And then as a result, or not as a result, but then subsequently they're requesting or seeking annexation of that 2.17 acres.
I would ask them a question, if you don't mind coming up to the podium. Do you have any idea of the time frame that the county is looking to get your minor subdivision completed?
We're not sure at this moment. We've talked, it's our understanding that that they're working on the plat at the moment, and that's all we've been told, to record it, so.
Well, just keep this in mind, the city cannot annex that till that is completed.
Right.
Randy Chaplain told me this morning they're in the process of the environmental, which is going to take a while.
For the septic,
Yeah.
that does take a while.
Which the annexation process, as you know, takes at least 2 months, almost 3 months. So,
Depending on when it hits.
yeah, my assumption would be that the plat would be recorded before that second and final reading. So I don't anticipate there being any issues.
Okay, so we can move forward without deferring.
Move forward with that recommendation of,
Okay.
that those two items be addressed, and everything's good.
So would you please restate your motion, just to be clear?
Yes, I make a motion for approval based, including the two engineer comments.
Second.
Okay, a first and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
8.2, discuss and or take action on final plat for Heartland Reserve, Section 4, 26 lots, map 18, parcel 55.01, 18.8 acres, Heartland Reserve Incorporated owner. Do we have a okay. Would you like to read, Mr. Beata, the engineer's comments?
This is item 8.2.
8.2.
Okay, there are two engineer comments relating to item 8.2. Number one, the construction plans called for drainage swales across the rear portion of lots 25 through 31 and lots 32 through 42. These proposed swales should be located in drainage easements, and the easements should be shown on the final plat. The easement should be wide enough so that the side slopes are wholly located within the easement. Number two, please note that the city's standard practice is that no building permits will be issued until all proposed infrastructure has been installed according to the approved construction plans and accepted by the appropriate entity. That's all.
Move for approval, including the two comments from the city engineer.
Second?
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Eight point four, discuss and or take action on rezoning of property off Cox Pike. Did I miss that?
Madam Chairperson, 8.3.
I'm sorry. Skipped right over that. 8.3, discuss and or take action on final plat for Western Woods Village, Section 4, 38 lots, map 42, parcel 182.01, 5.90 acres, Marlon Cunningham owner.
Recuse myself, please.
Mr. Mangrum recuses himself, and Mr. Cunningham is present.
Yes, there's one comment for item 8.3. Number one, it appears the tax map and parcel number reference is inaccurate. Please revise plat accordingly. That's all. I'd like to make a motion for approval with the comment of correcting the tax map and parcel number.
Second.
Have a first and a second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Eight point four, discuss and or take action on rezoning of property off Cox Pike from RS 40 to mixed-use PUD W/R-20, base density, residential/commercial general mixed-use planned unit development, map 43, parcel 30.01 and 31.00, 32.19 acres, Denny Proctor and Welch owners. Have a representation? Okay, thank you.
Okay, there are seven items from the engineer and staff. Item 8.4. Number one, based on discussion at the staff review meeting There are portions of each existing parcel that will ultimately not be a part of the PUD overlay designation. These areas are delineated and labeled as such on the PMDP, and prior to first reading by the Board of Commissioners, a legal description of the exact boundaries to be encumbered by the proposed PUD overlay should be provided to the city for incorporation into the rezoning ordinance. Number 2, the layout of the submitted preliminary master development plan is wholly dependent on the applicant receiving TDEC and Water Authority of Dixon County approval for the proposed decentralized wastewater treatment and disposal system. Number 3, all final plans must meet the city's design standards for public streets. Number 4, for previous versions of the proposed development, there was a narrative and a pictorial submittal that accompanied the preliminary master development plan. Please revise those supplemental documents accordingly and resubmit with the revised preliminary master development plan. Number 5, the proposed residential density is 2.2 units per acre, which corresponds to an R20 base zone density. The R20 zone is considered a medium-density residential zone according to the zoning ordinance. The land use plan identifies this area as low-density residential. If approved by the Planning Commission, an amendment to the land use plan would need to occur. Number 6, all final plans must meet the city's standards for drainage and stormwater-related infrastructure. Number 7, the horizontal curves of the proposed alleys will likely need to be revised to accommodate the turning radii of emergency response vehicles. This can be accomplished at the construction plan stage, but should be noted on the preliminary master development plan as a likely possibility. That's all.
Madam Chairperson, I'm going to recuse myself from this item as well, please.
Okay. Mr. Mangrum recuses himself.
Can we move into to discussion? Can we start discussing, or we need a motion?
Motion approved.
Make a motion.
I want to make a motion to approve.
I'd like to point out that the land use plan identifies this area as low density. So if we chose to approve this, we would have to change that to medium density.
Have we had a motion yet to get us into discussion?
We have your motion, but I don't have a second.
That's what was, as far as, wait a minute. Second. Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Discussion?
I have a few notes. I'll just start with, I'm trying to grasp my head around this one. We have in an area that the land use map is calling for low density. And I know in our PUD regulations, we can manipulate a PUD to however we see fit as long as it meets that density calculation. But at some point, do we say it's an R20 PUD, it also needs to meet some of the R20 requirements? Maybe not every requirement, but at least, on the checklist of some, you would hit some of the R20, because otherwise, why would you have the R20 designation other than the density calculation? But the way I see it is this neighborhood most commonly resembles the Western Woods neighborhood as far as lot size, and that one is an R5. We have Western Woods as an RS5 PUD in a high-density area, and as far as lot sizes, to me, that's what it most resembles. And yeah, it has a little more acreage on the outside perimeter, but just to me, it doesn't feel like putting that high-density product into that area that's calling for in land use map as low density doesn't feel appropriate.
Which is also only allowed in the town center overlay.
RS5 would only be allowed in the town center overlay. And then questions like the commercial general, if it's a 2 acre if you're gonna say that PUD designation is commercial general, does that 2 acres be removed from the overall R20 calculation? If that area is designated, and then where they're removing areas from the PUD overlay, does that acreage need to be removed if it's not part of the PUD from the overall calculation? And then are they removing those areas in order to get out of having to increase the larger lot sizes because it doesn't touch the outside boundaries, or why would that area be removed? You have any input there?
As far as the 2 acres, it's not been removed from the calculations. But the owner's willing to turn that into open space or park area to keep the density of the lots.
How about the areas that you guys removed from the PUD overlay designation or plan to remove? Any certain reason for that?
Which area you're speaking of?
On the plat that you guys submitted, it's got areas that back up to the back alley lots on the right-hand side. There's a little strip that says area not part of PUD proposal that backs up to the Welch property.
The owner requested that they keep that strip
Turn your microphone.
when the property is transferred.
Thank you.
Then also the property behind the Denny property.
That's
the
correct.
triangle piece.
Around the lake, yes.
Mr. Owen, would those lots be required to be a higher percentage because they back up, or does the alley eliminate the touching of the properties, if that makes sense?
The historical interpretation has been, of that requirement, has been that the 15,000 square foot requirement for lot sizes is required of lots that actually touch the boundary of, that are adjacent to the boundary of the PUD development and actually have a common property boundary with that development. I would suggest to you that one of the potential revisions to address, not even specific to this development, but for PUDs in general, is that the interpretation that we want moving forward, or do we want to revise that interpretation and thereby revise the language to require lots such as these, even if there is open space between them and the adjacent properties, to have a minimum size of a certain threshold? But as it stands now, the historical interpretation that the city has utilized has been that that requirement is only applicable to lots in a PUD that actually have a common boundary. And I think that's the spirit of that requirement. The spirit is to not have smaller lots directly backing up to larger adjacent lots. And that spirit is accomplished by providing open space between, the smaller lots and the adjacent lots. So that's been the historical interpretation.
What most everybody else does too.
I have a question that I missed last time. I noticed you had alley lots and there's a drive to the rear of these alley lots. But then I look at this detail and it says these homes will not have a garage. So is there gonna be a driveway but just no garage?
All the ones on the alleys will have garages. I'm not sure how that got on that plan, but.
Okay.
Well,
That's what it seems like it was designed for.
Yeah,
Because
it
why
is.
have a drive if, but, okay.
Yeah, the previous drawings we had, the renderings didn't show garages on those alleys.
Well, then
And
it
that's
says here, two bedroom, 2.5 bath, no garage.
Oh, it says it right on the plat.
That's a misprint. They're to have garages.
That makes more sense, because like I said, I saw the drive to the rear, and I was like, where do you drive into the back of your house?
And then going with the product, the pictures that we saw, or I think Mr. Smythe had at the most recent BOC meeting, was from Valdelia Cottages, which is right outside the Franklin Square. And so he used those pictures as references of the product that he's going to install. And when I looked that product up, the city of Franklin considered it an infill project in a high residential district. And so just another thing it makes me think is, we're putting a product that's considered infill, high residential product into an area that our land use map says should be low density. And I don't know if that's still the product intent. We didn't get those renderings again this time. I know Mr. Smythe has shown some concerns about just feeling like he doesn't get a straightforward answer, and so I tried to reread all the minutes and watch all the videos of this that's going on. And in the May 15 meeting of last year, May 2015, Mr. Mangrum kind of closed our entire conversation with his biggest concern is that it's the RS-15 designation and the lots are still at 5,000. And so he states, Mangrum stated he believes the biggest hurdle looking at these lots, they really are an RS5 because only 5,000 square feet. Owen stated that's correct, the density is RS15, the PUD overlay is a base density RS15. And so and then Owen stated Mr. Ring was correct, the actual lot size is closer to RS5. So I think we have been saying we want to try and get closer to that designation that is calling for. And I know the PUD can manipulate that, but I don't know if we necessarily need 15,000 square foot lots, but we want a bigger lot size because the average lot size on this product proposed would be 6,131 square foot with all the lots active. And those are just,
What size lot would be appropriate in your mind?
well, the one across the street is also an R20. The Polston Place project has 39 5,200 square foot lots, 29 9,700 square foot lots, and then 16 21,000 square foot lots. So if you're going to introduce a PUD to try and have that mixed use product to have a larger half acre and then have 10,000 square foot lots, I think the most recent one on Cumberland had a 7,200 square foot lot. It had 15,000 square foot lots, and then the front lots, the four across the front, were all an acre. So just kind of that mixed bag and trying to get closer to that 10, 15 number, I think makes me feel more comfortable because it gets that infill project feel. When you have those small lots, 5-foot setbacks on the side, and I just don't think that area, that proposed area, is a good fit for that kind of infill project, in my opinion.
Any further discussion?
I think, again, Mr. Butler, I think what you're trying to convey is that while the minimum lot size that's proposed in front of you right now is 5,200 square feet, 40 by 130, 40 foot wide by 130 foot deep. And technically, the way it's labeled is it's typical alley lot. So I would suggest to you that if you wanted to move forward, that be assigned as a minimum alley lot dimension.
And that's what some on the plat are 120, 118.
Right.
And so they're not even 130.
So that's one thing, but the overarching thing is, while the 5,200 square foot minimum lot is in line with other PUD approvals that you've seen recently, Polston Place 2 had 5,200 square foot lots, minimum lot size. They had a mix, but that was the minimum. The Cumberland Estates that you just saw, their minimum lot size was 7,200 square feet. The Westview development was 4,800 square feet, was the minimum lot size, 40 by 120. Brownland Farms, which we're all familiar with, which that's not recent, but was a minimum of 50 by 110, so 5,400 square feet. So this development is similar in minimum lot size. The difference, though, is all those that I just discussed, the future land use or proposed land use map for those specific areas was RM, or medium density residential. So that's the distinction between those and this one. And I think what I'm hearing is, in an effort to seek common ground, you're asking for increased lot sizes, minimum lot sizes, for consideration of potentially looking at revising the proposed land use map for a medium density residential. Because that's, and I think Mr. Larry will tell you this, that needs to be the distinction in any recommendation, is that the difference, the distinguishing factor between those and this is the designation on the proposed land use map. Because without that distinction, it doesn't really, it's not that much different than some things that you've approved previously. But that is a big distinction. It's not something that can be looked at lightly.
Absolutely. And the majority of those you mentioned had a mixed product. So they had some on the
Correct.
larger end, some on the smaller end. I think that's a great distinction is, do we even get over the hurdle of changing the land use map to get to medium? And then, and I think, in my personal opinion, if the lot sizes were more in accordance to that 10, 15 number around there, I think it would be, I would be probably in favor of that because of the adjacent properties being R20 and things like that. But just the feel of the R5, the 5,000 square foot lots, the smaller lots, just doesn't, in that particular location, doesn't fit right for me.
The one thing, if I jump on that too, is to note that there is room to spread these lots out. It looks like to meet the new R20 requirement, it looks like just the back half of the subdivision was lopped off and turned into park area, which before it was lots. So, I mean, there's definitely room to make these lots larger. I guess the other thing too that Brandon pointed out is the calculation of the density with the commercial in the front and then some of these new areas that are being delineated out as not part of a PUD proposal. I don't know if that was reflected in the new land area or not, but just want to kind of mention that.
The two tracks are 35 acres. The property that was taken out reduces the size to 32.1.
Okay, so it was reflected.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just that commercial area.
We'll know and that includes the commercial area?
Yes, it does.
It does?
Yes.
Well, I thought previously, earlier you said no, that he was in,
It is.
we said
No,
no. You
what I
it
said
didn't-
was it wasn't removed from the PUD calculations.
Correct.
But if you want it removed,
That's
the
what he said, he would
owners-
entertain
the
it being a
owners-
park or a-
The owner's willing to delete the CG to keep the density in the residential.
Have you guys had any feedback from the Dixon County Water Authority on the on-site system?
It's real, they've agreed to operate the system. It's really up to approval of TDEC, but Water Authority has agreed to operate the system. And at this point, we've done some preliminary soil tests in the area on the southern side, and they seem to be promising. with the reduced density, I don't see it being any issue. And we could also enlarge the lots if you like. What we've tried to do is run the road across the ridge to kind of minimize the grading and work in there, because the site, once you get past 300 or 400 feet from Cox Pike, is heavily wooded with hardwoods, and we'd like to save as many of those as we could.
And I completely understand the site restrictions. Just at some point, do you say maybe this particular property isn't fit for it? You know, just, it's hard to conform our regulations to fit the property.
Don't shoot the messenger.
That's right.
Any other discussion?
Again, I'll remind you that your responsibility for rezonings, and that includes PUDs, is a motion for a recommendation in favor or not in favor of what's presented to you. And if it's in favor, then you would include any additional restrictions or any additional insights that you'd like to see. You can do that in light of recent events. You could also vote to defer with specific instructions to the applicant on revisions that you'd like to see, so that you could make a recommendation without any contingencies, if that's what you wanted to do. I mean, you have, some free rein here, so to speak, on how to move forward with this. And I'll also state, the applicant has the right, even if you deny or have a motion for a negative recommendation, the applicant has the right to request that to continue on to the BOC with that negative recommendation. It doesn't stop here if the applicant doesn't desire it to. Again, it's just an advisory recommendation, and that's true for all rezoning applications, including PUDs, and that's what you have in this case.
And if you do have, whether it's a recommendation for, a recommendation against, or one in the middle, like I said, with contingencies, you do need to include your reasoning, because the board needs to know that.
And if you have contingencies of a favorable recommendation, the applicant has the right to address all those contingencies satisfactorily, or he has the right to proceed as presented to you tonight without addressing any of those to the BOC. And then the BOC should take into consideration if those contingencies have been addressed or not.
Any other discussion? Okay, so we have a motion for approval and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Aye.
So we probably need to make a motion to send to the Board of Commissioners with a negative recommendation. On the-
Based on the density being asked for to be medium, and the land use map is a low density in that area.
Does it need to be restated, Larry?
Pardon?
Does it need to be restated, including that?
No, you just make a motion. He had a motion that be sent with a negative recommendation. I didn't hear a second.
But you said you need to send reasoning with it.
That was your reason.
Okay.
Negative recommendation based on that the density is medium, requested density is medium density, and land use map request low, so it doesn't meet our land use map plan.
So do we need to vote on that as well? Okay.
Any second?
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Clarification. Did y'all withdraw your first motion for approval?
No, we had, the first motion was a denial of the approval.
Okay.
And the second motion was sending it to the Board of Commissioners and the reasoning.
Okay, Thank you.
Where we started. I guess you'll watch the video so she can hear us.
Okay, so 8.5, discuss and or take action on final site plan for courtyards at Westview, 7112 Westview Drive, map 069, parcel 058.00, 1.21 acres, zone commercial general, owner Kathy E. Beata. On the engineer's comments, it's requested to be deferred.
That's correct.
Mr. Beata, would you like to it just be deferred?
Yeah, just be
Okay.
deferred.
All right, so that item, do we need to vote on that to be deferred, or just,
Yes, if you're going to defer it, it'd be.
Well, the applicant asked to be removed
Oh, okay.
prior to the meeting.
No, you don't need to approve that. She
okay,
has
so
it.
that item will be deferred.
Right.
Okay,
She said to be removed. If it's deferred, it should be on your next agenda. If
Yeah,
it's
I was
removed,
just-
then she'll have to put it back on there when she wants it.
That'll be okay.
okay, so for clarification, removed, okay. I was just reading, under engineer's comments, the word deferred.
I apologize for that confusion.
No, that's okay, I just wanted it to be,
Yeah, it,
Clear.
basically, there's some, I don't know the best way to put it, but some housekeeping, as far as some previous zoning, so we have to work with the city. It may take several months, so that's why we just asked to be removed.
okay, all right. So item number 9 is reports for discussion and information. 9.1, Director of Planning and Codes, Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I just got a brief statement I'd like to make tonight. In the workshop, I thought was very, very good information, and I'm looking forward to possibly getting Will on board with getting all these regulations under one flow chart, so to speak, Will. I think it's going to be a very instrumental thing for the whole Planning Commission and Codes Department. So I'm going to include that under the city manager's request too. So anyway, Tony, that might be something that you might can help us with from the board level. See if we can get this approved so we can move forward with that.
If you can, Boyd, put it on the agenda for the next meeting
Yes, sir.
to discuss and take action.
Yes, sir. I will do that.
Okay, thank you. 9.2, City Engineer, Mr. Owen.
I have nothing.
Thank you. 9.3, City Attorney, Mr. Cantrell.
I have nothing further at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. 9.4, City Manager, Mr. Hall.
I was through with that statement. Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
And y'all did a great job tonight. Thanks, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 10, communication from the Planning Commission members. Mr. Mangrum?
I just have a couple things, just for clarification, because I know there's some people speaking out there talking about how many times I recused myself, but I just want to clarify a couple things on, just because I recuse myself doesn't mean I'm involved. One item that I've continuously recused myself that we discussed again tonight was because I was approached by that potential developer about becoming a partner with him in that development, which I declined. But since I had that discussions, I have continued to recuse myself from that item. The other two items, it's just evolving around people that I have other business ventures with, and I don't want to vote on their project. So, not that I'm involved in those projects, but just simply like to recuse myself, so there's no way that can be misconstrued where I'm voting for my own type projects. And that's all.
Thank you. Number 2, Mr. Sutton.
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Butler?
Just real quick, thanks everyone coming to the workshop. Thank you for the tree board coming out, and thank you, Mr. Owen, for helping try and wrangle that mass confusion together. The staff has a full plate trying to work some of those things out, so thank you guys for the continued effort, and hopefully we'll get to the end game and help everybody understand the procedures and process.
Thank you. Mr. Beata?
Yeah, just on Brandon's point, thank you for everybody to kind of keep trying to tighten up and make the processes streamlined as can be, with everybody knowing what to do on the front end, and helps everybody out. Also, just wanted to give, I know Mr. Rowe's seat is empty, and as I understand, he won't be helping us out anymore, and I just wanted to thank him for all that he's done. He was a good source for us, and I'm sure he'll continue helping the city of Fairview in any way he can. So I wanted to say that, and that's all.
Thank you. Mr. Dowdy? Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Lohman?
I just wanted to reiterate, thank Mr. Butler for tabling the workshop today, and great job tonight, Will, for pulling that together. I like the synopsis you wrapped that thing up with, and I thought it made a lot of sense, and your input as well, Mr. Cantrell, for the flow of how all those work. But thank you guys for that. It was a good workshop tonight. That's all I've got.
Thank you. I have two things. One, Mr. Hall did a lot of behind-the-scenes getting progress made with the Cumberland Road project, and that project, I believe, is going to be a very nice project for our community. The developer was more than willing to work with Mr. Hall and us to bring, the items that needed to happen. They agreed to almost all of those, and I just wanted to thank Mr. Hall for working with them and them working with us and bringing a good product to us. The other thing, I know that we have people on the Planning Commission that have development background, they have building background, they may be builders, developers, architects. We need those people on this board. It's very important. Sometimes they might be involved in a project where they have to recuse themselves, but we need that knowledge. And Mr. Mangrum, he constantly brings information to us that might have, for some reason maybe have overlooked, or something that just gives us that knowledge that we need, because he has that background and that experience. That is very important for this board, and I just wanted to say that. Also, just remember, we've got a lot of new businesses in our community, very exciting, new coming to the community, new that have just opened. Please look at Fairview first and keep your money here so that we can promote our community. And that's all I have to say. Sure.
Mr. Hall, one thing I meant to ask you, I noticed they started tilling and prepping the medians for the planting. I guess that's moving forward, and seem like they're prepping everything.
We have a whole lot of trees and shrubs over in the community services around that backside there where you go around to the backside of the fire department. And they're got another delivery today, so I think all of the product is on the city streets, or in the city, so to speak. So hopefully they'll be getting started pretty soon. So
that's excellent.
Maybe they want to wait till this rain that we got going, which will help their planting season, hopefully. And there's some nice looking plants over there. And would remind y'all also that we're going to have a dedication on Sunday afternoon, May the 22nd, for Dan Kubik, who originally started that project several years ago. I actually was sitting on the Board of Commissioners when we approved that to go forward back. That's a long time ago. That's over 10 years now. So I think that's, my note says 2 o'clock, but somebody's confused me that it's 3 o'clock. So
I get
we will
3
be
o'clock.
getting out the right time when it does come, so that everybody can come and participate in honoring Dan Cubitt.
That's great.
So that is something
Yeah,
that
they
I'm
sound
proud to
great.
get
Excited
done.
about that.
Yeah, that's gonna look great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do you have a motion for adjournment?
Second.
A first and a second, we're adjourned.